Hello friends, Cheryl here again with Pulp, and I'm back with Retreat Homework Part 2. And I actually, as I was looking back over my notes, realized that there was a third piece of homework I need to make. So there actually will be one more video after this one. But homework number 2 is this. I made this up. I don't know if I'll put it in my ideas journal or use this as my one for retreat. We'll see what the one looks like after I finish today. But the homework assignment was to take a file folder, or it didn't have to be a file folder. You could cut it in the shape if you didn't have a file folder. I do, so we'll use that and make a notebook out of it. And in the notebook, on the left-hand side, we were supposed to put a pocket, and on the right-hand side was to be a pad of, it's a little notebook. Okay, so that was my, I didn't finish inking around this. I'll have to do that. That was my homework, my homework for part 2, and this is going to be a swap, so I will swap this with somebody else. And then I just used a couple of ticket stickers to kind of put something on that side of the page so it wasn't just blank. So that's the project. And now it's funny because my file folders are all red, but we'll cover everything up. So, and the project was supposed to be 3.5 inches, not counting the tab. Mine's a little bit less than that, by 7. So 3.5 by 7. So what I'm going to do, because I want this part of the folder. So let's okay, this is going to be 3.5. And then I've got that piece to do something else with. By 7 tall. Oops. I don't know why I'm trying to do it that way. I've got a straight edge. Why don't we just put it on the straight edge? There is 7. All right. So here are my 2 pieces that are going to make my notebook. And the first thing I need to do is to put these together as a notebook. Okay, let me just make sure I got the right. Yep, that's 3.5. So that's going to be the notebook. Now on this one, I had it a little bit closer. That's okay. This one will be a little farther out. But what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to take some masking tape. Because masking tape is pretty thin and it's not going to interfere with the paper that I'm going to put on here. So I'm going to put this about kind of down the middle. Doesn't have to be exact because you won't see it. But I'm going to eyeball kind of where the middle is here. And we'll burnish that down. And then, and I'm going to leave just about a millimeter gap in there because I want, I want it to open and close easily. So I want to have just a tiny little gap. Not much. There we go. And then I'll just wrap these around. And then that opens and closes as my little notebook. All right, the next thing I need to do is put the outside paper on here. And I've picked out a very thin paper because I don't want to have a whole lot to fold. And I'm just going to glue this and put it on this paper, and then I'll cut around and cut that out. So let's get a glue book and some glue. This actually turned out to be kind of a fun project. I wasn't sure about it at first, and I'm glad I've got one to go in my ideas book. I need to put more in that ideas book and keep it going. I watched a couple of videos this morning by Gail Augustinelli, and she had a couple of pockets that she actually got the idea out of a journal that she had just purchased. And some of you may follow her and you may have already seen the videos, but I definitely, at some point down the road, I put it on my list of videos to make, but it won't be any time real soon because I've got some already lined up. So I didn't do my standard, if you're new here, I just kind of jumped into the project. So if you're new here, I don't think there's an up or down. Put it this way. If you're new here, welcome. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you find this interesting and decide to stay around as a subscriber. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. You know how much I appreciate your support. Let's do this. And I've got my real long black scissors out here somewhere, and Lordy, I don't know where they went, so we'll just use this. Now, these little corners can be tricky. Just do your best. We'll be inking them up, and we'll be putting another piece of paper on the inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut across here, and we'll get this piece cut out from the bigger piece. That'll make it easier. So I hope y'all are having a good crafty day. There we go. I've got a couple of videos that I want to make today, and I have some items coming from a shop that I bought from on Etsy, and I want to do a seller spotlight on this particular seller. So I'll probably be doing that. It may not go up today, but my goal is to start filming some of these videos ahead of time rather than doing them just the day that they go up. If I have some ahead of time, then I won't feel so pressured to do a video every single day, because I'd like to put a video up a day. That's my goal. All right. This one here looks a little wonky. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can use my tiny scissors to make this look just a little bit better. There, that's better. All right. So now, since we've got this little crease in here, we can fold it over. And you see we have our front and back with the pretty pink inside, which we're going to cover up here in just a second. All right, let me just make sure that there's no glue on my desk because I don't want to get it on the back side. So the theme for this piece is kind of yellows and, well, all these colors here, but my inside focus is going to be a green. And that's not it. Actually, nope, that's not quite big enough. I was going to do just a green, but I think this color here will be really nice. So I'm going to do that instead. We'll do this upper part where it's not so wrinkled. Although there's a bird down here. I like this. All right. Now, one of the things, when these are still wet, they will, wrinkle a little bit. So I like to, once I get this part on, we'll set this aside to dry and work on the notebook. So that so it's just wet and it's crinkling because it's wet. So we'll, let it dry some. And by the way, if you haven't seen this glue stick, this is by Doris. I am really loving it. It sticks so well and it's big. So when you have big spaces like this, and I didn't put my glue book down, but that's okay because I'll just put a little more water on there and give it another rub to make sure there's no glue there. There's nothing worse than getting glue on a piece that you've already finished. Okay, we're going to need to put this here to go over a little bit. I need to go down a little bit here because we don't want to leave any of that red showing. Nope, still not. Oh, and look what I did. I'm going to have to use this top side now. I don't know what I was thinking. What was I thinking, you guys? Were you screaming at me? Saying that is the wrong way? This is the way up. I'm gluing the pattern down. How silly me. In my defense, this is my first video today. I did just get up not too long ago. So I'm going to blame it on still being sleepy. All right. That was another green piece that I had pulled out to put on this inside, but I think I like this. Oh, this was it. I think I like this much better. Oh, and it's off kilter, so that's all right. We'll just cut it out. And the text may not be exactly even on the other side, but that's okay. We're going to have other stuff. Oh, it's actually pretty good, surprisingly enough. Okay, let's just make sure that we have... And then there is some glue up there, but I've got my glue eraser that I can use on that and try to get that cleaned off. I don't know if it's better to do this before it dries or after it dries. And I'm thinking maybe after, because it's just globbing up. Now, the other thing that I do sometimes on these papers is I'll take a little bit of water, and as long as you don't put so much that you're warping the page, you can actually wipe some of that glue off with a little bit of water. Okay, so we'll leave that, and now let's cut the inside of our notebook. Covering our lining for the inside, and then we'll set this aside to dry while we make the other parts. Okay. I don't know why. I don't know why this fold, and it was like this on the other one too. It was just really hard to cut for some reason. Maybe because the curve is so small. So I'm curious to know, is anybody watching this going to the August retreat in Alabama? Will I be seeing you there? I've never been to this retreat before, but I have heard wonderful things about it. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Really, really looking forward to it. So I probably should have let it dry first and then cut it. So that might be a little helpful tip for you guys. Is let it dry first and then try to cut it so the paper's not. Okay, now I want to leave this laying flat to dry. And we'll just set this aside for a minute. All right, now the next thing we need to do is create a pocket. And I'm not sure. I was going to do a green pocket. I was going to use this for the front of the paper pad. Hang on 1 second. Look. Maybe we'll use this. For the pocket and for the paper pad. Now I put a backing on this, and then I put this printed paper on top. So I think maybe for the backing I will use this piece, but I'll use this piece for. All right, so let's see. Our pocket is 3 1/4 by 2 1/4. No, that's not 3 1/4. That's 3 and 1, 2. 3 and 1/4. So let's just cut. I can always cut it down if it's not quite right. Let's see. This was 2 1/4. I'm going to cut this top off. I'm going to try to get as much of this little image in here as possible. Okay. And this is going to be and then 2 1/4. There, we got most of it in. So we'll set this aside. And yep, a little bit taller than the one in there, but that's okay. And then I rounded the top corners. And put a thumb notch in it. And I used my really big punch for that. Did I put that away after I did my sample? Nope, there it is. I always use this great big one. I don't make a huge let's go. Okay, there we go. And then let's ink this up, and that will be ready to go. Now you could sew around it. I did not this. I did sew around the Notepad cover, but I did not sew around this. If you wanted to, you certainly could. Okay. That really matches well. And then, of course, you can always, decorate the front of this pocket. I think this is going to be the one that I put in my ideas journal. I think I like that blue one better for the swap. Okay, that's going to go like that. And then, let's see, about how long did I have my paper? The first time I did it, I just did it all by eyeballing it. And let me get some of this stuff out of here. This was about 5.5 inches long. So I made the papers a little bit smaller than that and about 3 3/4 wide. So what I'm going to do is take a few of these papers and you could use anything here if you want to put ledger paper in or scrapbook paper, pattern papers, whatever you want to do. You can, what did I say that was about? A little shorter than 5.5, so let's do 5 1/4 long. Five and a quarter long. By 5 1/4 long. And then, see, that was about 3. I'm going to go 3.5 wide. So I'm going to go 3.5 and then 7. So I can get a couple of these out of there. All right. Let's set this aside for right now. And okay. Oh, that's way too wide. What did I do? Oh, it was 2.5. Well, I need to cut this down some more. I thought that looked awful wide. I thought it looked awful wide. but that's all right. We'll just cut it down a little. And then I'll have some little scraps left. I love making little tiny notepads, like little ones like this to put in small pockets. Okay, 2.5 wide. Let me remeasure this because I can probably get 2 more out of this. Yep, exactly. Let's go 2.5, and then that one's going to be 2.5. So we can get 3 pieces out of this, and then I'll have to make it a little bit shorter, but all right. So that gives us 9 sheets. I don't know how many I had in the other one. And for the idea book, I probably don't need to use that many. I just don't. What did I say this measurement was? About 5.25. So let's go down 5.25. We're not going to take off a whole lot of that. And I may do it 1 sheet at a time so that it doesn't, because it really isn't. Let me do it 1 sheet at a time. I got to go this way. All right. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to 5.25. I'm going to cut it. It's just too hard to rip. And it will be just fine. The sides are ripped. And again, this is for the ideas journal. So there's that. Okay. Now, what I did with this is I stapled. Let me just make sure these are all the way up. I stapled the papers together at the very top. And then, now we're going to use, this was the pocket paper. Okay. Let me find the cardstock that I used for the pocket. There we go. So this is going to be sideways, but I think that's okay. So I'm going to put it like this, and then I'll mark, we'll go here and here, and we'll cut off the excess. So it's just a little bit bigger than the notepad. You want it to cover up those notepad papers. Okay, where are my marks? I know I just made marks. Oh, I did it on this side. And that's actually pretty smart, so it doesn't show up. I have to have this thing on really solid ground or it doesn't like to cut real well. All right. So there's that. Now we're going to put and I did this just a little bit different than the other one, but that's okay. So we're going to put this here. Okay, and then I need something to put on the front of it. And so, nope, this is where I might use a little bit of that green paper just for some contrast. Let's see what else I have over here. I also have this paper maybe we could put this on the front. Okay, so I need this piece to be about, hang on a second here, on my ruler. This is like 3, let's do 1/4 and 3.5. So 1/4 inch in. Well, this I can cut off to anything, and then I can measure what I want the to be. So let's cut this first, and I may want to cut that down a little bit more. Okay. And then I'm going to want that to be about 2 1/8. Okay. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. Let's go 2 1/8. That's gonna cut it off a little bit on either side, but that's all right. Then we'll go to 1/8. All right, let's go 2 1/4 right about here. Okay, 2 1/8, which is just about perfect. And then height-wise, let's cut a little bit off of that bottom. And I'm just eyeballing this. And I want it to go about there on that crown. All right. All right. I think we're all done with the paper cutter now. All right. So the first thing we need to do is glue this on. Let's ink it up first. Give it a good ink because both pieces are kind of light, and I want to make sure that we have enough color to make this stand out. So we'll ink it up really good. Make it real dark. Now, I toyed with the idea of rounding these corners, but I'm not going to do that because, well, you'll see why, of the way that I put it on. All right, so we've got that. All right, now I want to, yeah, we glued it on first. I'm going to glue this on first. Here's my glue book. And then we'll sew it. Okay. And it really doesn't matter which side is up, as long as it's fairly evenly spaced. And fairly even across the top and bottom. I didn't get that real even, so let's That's a good thing about the glue stick, is you can reposition. And I do want it to come over a little more this way. All right, so there's that piece. Let me go sew around this, and then I will be back with you. And I am going to pause this because you can't see me sew, and there's no point in... Oh, there's a little bit of a glue blob in there. Let's get that out. Okay, there it is. All right. No point in you just listening to me sew. So I'm going to pause, and I will be back. All right, I am back. That little break, I know for you guys it was just a second. For me, it took a lot longer than I had hoped. I ran out of bobbin thread about here while sewing my project, and so I had to rewind my bobbin or refill my bobbin. And when I did, I didn't notice it at first, but the thread had gone underneath the bobbin and it was winding around the post underneath the bobbin. All this mess here. And what was on the bobbin was all loose, and the whole thing was a mess. So I had to cut out all the thread, and at first I threw it away, and then I thought, no, that can be awesome for other projects. So I pulled it out of the garbage can, and away we went. So here's this project here, okay? And what I'm going to do is fold this down just a little bit. Is that straight? No, it is not. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate, but it should be pretty close. Okay. And what I'm going to do, now that we have a thing that we can flip up, is I am going to put it right here. I'm going to glue it on to cover up those staples, and so when you open it, you don't see the staples. Okay? Before I do that, I am going to ink it up. Oh, my blob of thread. And the reason I'm not cutting this, rounding these corners, is because everything else on this piece, the corners are square. So I didn't want this to look, except for the top of the pocket. That's the only place I did some rounding. But I didn't want to make it too different, than the rest of it. Okay, so let's do this. And let's take some art glitter glue. So I stapled these very close to the top. I just wanted to hold the papers in. Oh, not wanting to come out real good. Come on, my little art glitter glue. Be nice to me. I think that's like the #1 skill you have to learn when you become a paper crafter. All right, folks, my computer decided it needed to back up right in the middle of my video, and it shut me off. So I had already done some stuff, and we weren't online. So let me show you what I did. I folded this over. Hang on a second. I folded this over, and as I was pushing it down, I snagged the paper a little bit. So I put some washi tape so that it, covered that up. And then on the inside, what I did with the Notepad is, I finished sewing around the edges. And then I bent this up, put some washi tape across the top to somewhat hide the staples, and then I bent it so this will come up easier. And then I went right up near the staples under there with some glue, and I glued the notepad onto the back. So I hope that makes sense. I'm so sorry. I don't know why my computer decided it needed to do a backup. But that's that. Now, if this were something I was going to keep or send to somebody, I might take my colored pencils and color these in to make this flower a little more vibrant. But because it's just for me, I'm not going to probably take the time to do that. And then the last thing here is we're going to put our pocket on and then ink it up. Now, this one has a little more at the top. I could take some more of those little tickets. I have them in all sorts of colors, and let's ink this all up. But see why I left these straight? Because it's straight down here, straight up here, and I just thought it went better, to keep those corners straight instead of rounding them. Now, I did round the top of the pocket, but, that's okay. I guess that kind of goes with that rounding there. But the rest of it is all straight. But I can't believe that my computer decided to start a backup in the middle of my video. That's a little disappointing. Now, I am going to go down the middle here. Okay. All right, now what I haven't done yet is inked up around the outside, and I could decorate on the outside as well. I don't know that I will, but let's look real quick and see what I've got for a couple of those. Not those. I want some that are kind of botanical. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, maybe these two. Maybe these two. All right, let's do a little bit of inking. And it doesn't necessarily go with the postage stuff on the outside, but I think that's okay. I think, once you open it up, you got some botanical stuff going on. And I think that's okay. So this one will be for the ideas journal. I got to start putting more stuff in there. I'm not. Let's do that. These are stickers. So if you can hear the vacuum up there, that's my husband. He's vacuuming. There's that. And then there's that one. We'll put these all back in their bag that they came out of. Now, what I will tell you is that when you first make this, Now you could put a word across here. You could do so much with this. You could decorate the front. You could put something on the pocket. What I will tell you is that it's not going to lay down completely flat right at first. So what I did is I put this under a whole bunch of, books. And then when you go to get it out again, it lays down much flatter. You could put a little tie around it. You could do whatever you wanted to do around there. But that is the little notebook with a notepad on the right and a pocket on the left. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate it. And leave me a comment. That stuff really helps with the algorithm. So anyway, I'm going to call it a video, and I'm going to have one more homework video for my third homework piece, and that will probably come tomorrow. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to go splice these two videos together, and I'm sorry about the hiccup with the computer stopping, but that's just the way it is, I guess. Talk to y'all later. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.